Hey guys, what's up? Here with a quick fight recap of the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder trilogy fight. I don't have any highlights of the fight itself. I don't know how to edit them without getting copyrighted. I would appreciate if you don't dislike the video because of that. I will not clickbait it by any means. You're here. I'd appreciate if you want to listen, definitely stay. I'm just doing a recap of the fight itself. The fight, if you didn't watch, ended with 11 round knockout by Tyson Fury. It was when you see the punch, when you see the knockout, it looks pretty devastating. Wilder got up. He was pretty okay after. I thought he'd be down for longer, but honestly, I think they make a bigger deal of he's going to live to fight another day. Maybe they should have thrown the towel, even referencing, oh, Malik Scott won't do it. I don't think there was a point. He was going in there. He was still hanging in with Fury in the 10th. I mean, he definitely was hurt overall and he was out on his feet for portions of the fight, but he wanted the opportunity to show that he could go out there on his sword. And I mean, again, he did hurt Fury kind of in the 10th. He got his chance though. And I mean, he comes out first round, throwing a lot of jabs to the body. Personally, I'm watching that. I'm seeing Tyson Fury and I'm getting a bit upset because I'm expecting him to throw the check hook often. He eventually did start to throw that check hook whenever Wilder was going to the body by, I think, fifth, sixth, seventh round, etc. But at the start of the fight, he wasn't throwing that check hook at all. And it really did surprise me just because it's a pretty basic technique, especially for a guy like Fury, to know that when a guy is obviously going to the body and his head's obviously there to be exposed for him, I figured he would just come over the top with the check hook multiple times and use his movement to obviously just get out of those situations. But he was kind of just letting Wilder come forward and just dig that jab into the body. And the obvious strategy for Wilder was dig it into the body, and then throw one jab to the body and go over to the top to the head. And I mean, if you're going to sit here and you're already watched it and you say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, if I could see that basic strategy, then obviously Tyson Fury could see it. And at the moment, he obviously, I don't know if it was taking time to adjust. Personally, if I had to guess, what I think it was him not taking the fight as seriously as he should have. He'll probably say he would, and he's extremely focused. But I do recall in one interview, he mentioned something about having about a 3.5 week, 4 week training camp. And yeah, he said that's normal for him. But I think it did show at the start of the fight where he lets you believe a lot of these things may or may not be normal for him, but I don't think he did spar a lot for this fight. And I think that's why his timing at the start of the fight wasn't necessarily there. He wasn't using his head movement as much as he normally does. And that was the thing that really surprised me pretty much throughout the fight, was his lack of head movement, where eventually he did start to use it. The knockout or the knockdown, I think it was in the 10th, it was a super nice, he ducks under obviously Wilder's hook, and then he comes over the top and lands a right hand, and Wilder drops down to his knees. And that was typical Tyson Fury, what we're used to seeing. There was a moment, I think in the 6th, when I went finally, where Wilder threw a hook and Fury just kind of jumped back, did a nice little step back there that you would do if someone threw a leg kick in you in Muay Thai. And it was that moment where I said, all right, at least Fury, he's starting to see things coming now, and he's starting to come and be the guy who he normally is. But I mean, before that point, he was going in there and he was pretty much just brawling with Deontay Wilder for the most part. I mean, it was very similar to the first fight. And I even texted someone during it and they had said, it's disappointing to see that Tyson Fury looks like a lesser version of himself than in both the first and second fight, based on obviously we think he's improved. And I would agree that I don't think for most of the fight he was as good as he was in the first or second fight. I think towards the end of the fight, he was definitely better than he was in the first fight for fighting Deontay Wilder. But at the same time, Wilder was pretty tired at that point. I do think, again, Fury could have put on a better performance. I do think for whatever reason, Wilder's strategy at first, digging to the body and looking to come over the top to the head, did surprise Fury. I don't know why. Maybe he just thought Deontay would be rattled from the first fight and he'd immediately go on his back foot. And maybe, again, Fury just, in the moment, he needed a couple rounds to come out. He did drop him pretty early in the fight. It was the 3rd or 4th that he did get his first knockdown. But then Wilder obviously came back. It's 2 knockdowns in, what was it, the 4th or the 5th round. And at that point, everyone's going crazy talking about how great of a heavyweight fight it is. And I'm still sitting here upset that I'm not seeing any head movement from fucking Tyson Fury. And then eventually this guy finally comes out and he does it. So that made me happy, at least. Again, great fight overall, multiple knockdowns from both guys. Wilder solely in the 5th round. Fury throughout the fight has multiple knockdowns, but Wilder had some big moments. And I just think it's a situation where Tyson Fury is just a better boxer than him, and B is just it's just the strategies don't mesh well for Deontay Wilder. Does Deontay Wilder have a chance against someone like Anthony Joshua? Honestly, probably. Does he have a chance against someone like Alexander Usyk? I don't know. I don't even Tyson Fury admitted that Usyk is probably one of his hardest fights based on the fact that Steve Cunningham was one of his hardest fights too, in the very similar nature. But I would say Usyk is probably even at this point a step above Cunningham ever was. So I don't think Wilder would beat Usyk. I think that would be a similar situation. But hey, I mean, he lands one punch on him, you never know, and he's a lot smaller than Fury, so very well could happen that he could possibly beat him. We know him and Ruiz won't fight. I believe they're friends. So, I mean, a guy like Joseph Parker, I think Deontay Wilder could obviously still beat. Guys like Chisora, Derek White. Wilder, I think, could still beat any of those guys. I just truly think it's a Tyson Fury situation that he's never going to be able to get over. And I was thinking at one point, like, hey, if Wilder gets another knockdown late in the fight, what if it's a draw again? And then they have a 4th fight and Wilder wins that. And it's the first, at least the one I can remember, where there's 5 fights. It didn't happen. I'd say luckily, again, Fury gets knockout in the 11th. But overall, I'm happy again it didn't happen. There was, as Tyson Fury in the 2nd fight, a lot of clinch work going on, obviously putting that body weight on him, making sure that Deontay Wilder felt his weight, got tired. Invisibly, you could see the muscle Wilder put on too. If anyone's still listening at this point, I mean, the shoulders right away when he took off his boxing, I don't know what he wants to call it, his vest, his jacket, whatever it is. The second he took it off, I noticed his shoulders right away were just massive compared to last time. And I mean, he's already pretty fit, but you could really tell he focused on building his back and shoulders to just try to add any extra power he could, and obviously in the clinch give him some advantage there, help out his neck, the traps, etc. And maybe it worked for the first couple rounds, but I mean, Fury again obviously still found his way. 270 plus pounds versus 220, 230 pounds being forced. It's just, it doesn't work out. So Tyson Fury, better boxer, bad matchup for Deontay Wilder. Shows it again, lots of clinch work. Sugar Hill in the, what was it, in between the 9th was, or 8th was hilarious with his jab commentary. Obviously Fury just kind of sitting out there brawling, trying to finish. Sugar Hill reminding him just to use his jab, saying that's all I want. So I don't know what else to say about it other than, again, good performance from Tyson Fury, not the best performance we've seen from him. I don't know where he's going to go next. Maybe, if, pardon me for not knowing his name, but maybe he'll go fight the Turkish guy he was supposed to fight before Wilder, just because that fight fell very briefly beforehand. Anthony Joshua, not going to happen anymore. And I don't think Usyk will be his next fight. Usyk will probably get that rematch with Joshua first, and then maybe down the line we'll see it. So I'd say probably Fury's going to end up running it back there. Don't really know who else he'd fight. Wilder probably going to end up fighting one of the 3 guys I mentioned in either Parker, Chisora, or White. But overall, guys, let me know what you thought of the fight. If you watched this far, I definitely appreciate it. If you subscribe to the channel, definitely helps out. If there's any other content you guys want to see, do let me know. Other than that, comment on what you think Fury's next fight might be. That's definitely, I'd say, probably one of the only areas for debate now. If you think maybe Fury versus Usyk, how that matchup would go, some talk about that's always good. But again, appreciate the time. Have a good night, guys. If you're in Canada, happy Thanksgiving, and see you another time.